This happened on New Year's Eve, right? I was supposed to watch my friend Alex's dog for the weekend while he went to the city to party. I'm 35. He's 27, so you can see why I wasn't really into that. I'd rather make some cash and chill at home. He left early that morning and gave me the keys to his place. He said he'd be back on Sunday night. He also gave me some simple rules for his dog, Bailey. Just feed her, walk her twice a day, and don't let her on the couch. Bailey is this cute little husky mix. I don't know what else she's got in her, but she's way smaller than a normal husky and super quiet and well-trained. That's why Alex trusted me to watch her instead of hiring a professional. I only brought a backpack with me, with my laptop, charger, toothbrush, and some clothes for the next day. Alex and I are not that close. We met through some friends and we hang out sometimes on the weekends. I was going to sleep on the futon in his guest room. I spend most of the day on my laptop and playing some of his games. Later that night, I called my girlfriend and asked her to come over. Alex said it was cool, as long as I didn't mess up his bed. He was joking, of course. She said she had to work until midnight, but she'd come over after that. Alex's house is pretty far from ours, so I knew she wouldn't be here until late. I had to kill some time with Bailey, watching movies and stuff. We were in the living room, and Bailey was lying next to me. It was around 9 p.m. when I heard the doorbell. I got up and opened the door, and this girl was standing there. She looked like she was in her 30s. She was wearing a hoodie and holding a jacket. She said she was Alex's girlfriend, and she needed to get something from his room. I, to get it for her, offered, but she said no, it's fine. She knew where it was. I said, okay, sure, and let her in. She went straight upstairs to Alex's room and closed the door behind her, but not all the way. I texted Alex right away. Dude, do you have a girlfriend? She was in there for a while, until she came out. She came back downstairs, thanked me, and headed for the door. I tried to make some small talk, asking how long they'd been together, and she said too long, and laughed like it was a joke. I laughed too, and then she said bye. I was kind of confused by the whole thing, but I figured they must have broken up recently. But then I started to worry that maybe I shouldn't have let her in. Alex hadn't replied to my text yet, so I called him a few times until he answered. He was with his friends in a noisy place, so he couldn't hear me well until he stepped outside. I told him his girlfriend just come by to get something, and he was like, "What are you talking about?" "Who?" I said. "She said she was your girlfriend." I didn't catch her name. He yelled, "You know I don't have a girlfriend. What did she look like?" I felt like an idiot then. I described the girl, and he said he had no clue who she was. So I told Alex what happened, that she went to his room for a bit and then left. He freaked out. He told me to go check his room and see if anything was missing. I didn't know what he had in there, so he told me to look for some specific things. They were all there, luckily. He said he had no idea who she was, and he'd call me back after he asked around and sent me some pics of different girls. He was not having a good night. I could tell he was drunk, and I felt like a moron for letting some stranger into his house. He started texting me some screenshots of girls' Instagram profiles. None of them looked like the girl who came in. I said no to all of them, and then he stopped texting me for an hour. Then he sent me a random text. I think I know who it was. Don't let her in again. I didn't ask any questions. I just said, okay, sorry, and that was it. I thought Alex had some crazy ex-girlfriend or something. I watched the countdown by myself, not that I cared about the new year or anything. Later that night, Trisha finally showed up, and we hung out in the living room. I told her the whole story, and she was like, wow, that's messed up. But then, something weird happened. Bailey perked up and looked at the front door, and then someone knocked on it. They didn't ring the bell. I was not going to open it. I tried calling Alex, but he didn't answer. He was probably passed out and didn't hear his phone. Trisha and I stayed quiet and hoped they would go away. And they did, after a while. I was freaked out now. It had to be related to that girl from before. Maybe it was her again. I didn't want any part of this. We decided to go to the guest room and sleep on the futon. We put on a movie and cuddled. We fell asleep like that and woke up later that night, which I found out was only an hour later. I woke up to Bailey howling. She was in the room with us. Trisha woke up too. Bailey was at the door, wagging her tail and howling. I whispered, "Bailey, quiet." She looked at me and came over, but she kept staring at the door, growling and whining. Then we heard footsteps outside. There were at least 2 people walking quietly to the door. And then the doorknob turned. Thank God we locked the door. And then a girl's voice said, "Alex?" I looked at Trisha and told her to be quiet. That girl was not alone. There was another knock on the door, and then the girl's voice said, "Who's in there?" "This is Alex's house." I decided to yell. "The cops are on their way. You better leave," the girl said. "Who are you?" I didn't answer. I whispered to Trisha to call the cops, and she did. She whispered into the phone the whole time. I yelled, "Don't try anything, because the cops will be here any second." I heard a whisper on the other side of the door. Then I heard multiple footsteps running away from the door. We stayed in the room, waiting for the cops. The front door was wide open, so the cops came right in. The house was empty by then. I told them everything that happened, and then called Alex over and over until he picked up, sounding wasted. So, one of the cops talked to Alex on the phone for a while I was with Trisha and another cop. They figured out that the girl must have taken a key from Alex's room when she was there. That was a mess, because Alex couldn't come back home that late. He asked me to stay for the night, and I agreed. I felt bad for letting that girl in. I told Trisha to go home. I locked myself in the room with Bailey. I put a chair against the front door, just in case they came back. But they didn't, as far as I know. Alex came back earlier than he planned. I don't want to share too much of his stuff online, in case someone recognizes him from this story. But he told me who he thought the girl was, and why she was after him. It was a crazy story, and it showed me that guys have to be careful too with who they hook up. That girl, and whoever was with her, didn't want to steal anything. They wanted something else, something worse. He changed his locks right away. I don't know how he could stay in that house after that. But it's been a year, and nothing else has happened. At least, that's what he told me. Maybe he's hiding something. My husband and I had just come back from a fun night out with our friends to celebrate the new year. We were not drunk, just a bit tipsy. We liked to have a good time, but we also loved our cozy home. We lived in the best suite in our apartment complex, the one on the top floor in the corner. We heard that the owners wanted to sell the apartments as condos, but we didn't care. We could afford the rent, and we liked the privacy. To get to our floor, you had to go through 2 locked doors and sometimes a doorman who would say hello or goodbye. There were also security cameras everywhere, inside and outside the building. It was a very cold night, and when we got back, there was no doorman. It was very late, past 2 a.m. The lobby was empty, and one of the lights was flickering. My husband and I got into the elevator and pushed the button for our floor. The elevator was smooth, and as we went up, I felt more relaxed. I couldn't wait to get home and rest. My feet were hurting from wearing heels all night in the freezing weather. The bell rang, and we got out of the elevator. We turned left to go to our suite. But then we saw something that made us stop. A woman, or something that looked like a woman, was wandering in the hallway. Her hair was dark and messy, and it covered her face. She was wearing a black lace dress that was ripped and dirty. I don't think she had any shoes on. We thought she was drunk and lost, but she didn't look like anyone we knew. We knew all our neighbors because only a few people could get to our floor.
I looked at my husband, and he looked at me.
We both wondered what to do. I asked him, should we help her? He said, let's wait. Maybe she's just looking for her friends. The woman kept sliding along the walls of the hallway. She stopped at every door and looked through the peepholes. That was creepy, but it also made us think she was just confused. She was making a noise, like a humming or a growling. We couldn't believe what we were seeing, but we also felt nervous and scared. The weird woman crawled through the hallway, bending over until she stood up to look through the peepholes. She finally got to the door of an old lady who I was close to. Her name was Tilly. Tilly was a lonely woman who didn't get many visits from her family. She was a sweet old lady who always brought us some baked goodies. I would help her with her shopping and her pills. Tilly's smoke alarm was always going off. I would run to her place, take out the burnt toast, and wave at the alarm until it stopped. It was annoying, but it also meant we could have some tea and chat. I liked Tilly. So, when I saw that creepy woman looking into her door, I spoke up. I said, "Hey, are you okay?" I sounded scared as I said it. The creepy woman shook for a bit and fell to the floor. She looked like she was going to throw up, or maybe she was scared of me. My husband and I got closer, but then she started to laugh softly and evilly. I was so freaked out and grabbed my phone. It was awkward because we had to pass by her to get to our place. My husband said, "Hey, can you hear us? Do you need help?" Her laugh got louder and crazier. The creepy woman got up. As she got up, her laugh turned into a mix of a laugh and a loud growl. She walked forward and kept going down the hall. There was a staircase near our place. I thought she was going to the stairs because she didn't want to see us in the elevator. Maybe she was just a drunk woman, and this was just a weird situation with a sad and drunk woman. But if she was that drunk, the stairs were not a good idea. We were on the 7th floor. Anyway, I didn't want to talk to her anymore. I just wanted to get to my place and sleep. It was late, and my feet were hurting. We moved forward a bit, but then she stopped like a robot. She stood up straight, looked at our door, and started to bang on it and scream like crazy. I was so scared. I got my phone and called 911. The woman kept banging and screaming. I don't know why none of our neighbors came out to see what was going on. Maybe they were scared too, and just watching from their doors, worried about what they would think. My husband said, "Hey, stop that. What are you doing?" And then she stopped, dropped to the floor, and crawled fast towards us. She looked up for a second. All I saw were her dark eyes. Her mouth was black, and she was growling again. But this time, it sounded like she had something stuck in her throat. We were too scared to move, and we just watched until she hissed at us. It was a scary hiss, like in a horror movie. I was so terrified. I took off my shoes, and my husband and I ran to the staircase on the other side. We didn't want to wait for the elevator and have her catch us. We ran down 2 floors and stopped to see if she was coming down. But I couldn't hear anything. My heart was beating so fast. I wondered what the hell was happening. We stayed there for about 10 minutes, and then we went back up to our place. The woman was gone, and we got in. I was so happy to be safe in my home. My husband texted our landlord, and he said he would talk to us in the morning. I was so tired, but I couldn't sleep. The sound of that woman's growling and laughing was in my head. I barely slept. The next day, my husband talked to the landlord and asked him to look at the security cameras, but he said there was nothing. The cameras had a problem because of the cold weather last night. I still wonder what happened. That woman was not normal. Was she a threat? We left a year later, but every New Year's Eve, I remember that night. A creepy true story that happened to me on New Year's Eve of 2020. You know, the year that we all wanted to end as soon as possible. Well, it ended with a bang for me, but not in a good way. Let me explain. My friend Logan invited me to his house party. He said his parents were out of town, so we could have the whole place to ourselves. I got there early to help him set up. I also claimed the best spot to crash in his parents' room. That way, I could drink as much as I wanted and not worry about driving home. The party was awesome. A lot of our close friends came, and some other people I didn't know. We had music, drinks, snacks, games, you name it. When the clock struck midnight, we all shouted, "Happy New Year," and toasted our glasses. It was a great moment. But then, people started to leave. Some went to other parties, some went to bars, and some went home. Soon, it was just me, Logan, and our buddy, Cody. Cody was already dozing off on the couch. We decided to just chill in the living room and have a few more drinks. We were having a good time until we heard this weird noise. It sounded like something was creaking. At first, we thought it was the fridge or something. I know that sounds dumb. You know how sometimes appliances make strange noises. Anyway, we ignored it. But then, it got louder and more frequent. It was annoying. We couldn't figure out where it was coming from. We checked the kitchen, but it wasn't there. Then, we realized it was coming from the basement. Logan opened the basement door, and we heard the creaking. I told him to go check it out. He said no way. He was scared. I was scared too, but I was also curious. He yelled down the stairs, "Hey, who's there?" The creaking stopped. We waited for a response, but there was none. We looked at each other. We decided to go down together. We grabbed some knives from the kitchen, thinking that would protect us. We were so drunk, we didn't realize how stupid that was. We went down the stairs and searched the whole basement. It wasn't that big. It had a couch, a TV, a bar, a table, and some old stuff. It was kind of messy. We looked for any signs of someone hiding. We didn't find anyone. Then, we tried to find what was making the noise. I saw a rocking chair in the corner. I walked over to it and sat on it. I rocked back and forth, and it made the same creaking noise we heard. Logan and I freaked out. I jumped up and felt goosebumps all over my body. We ran up the stairs as fast as we could and slammed the door behind us. We locked it. We tried to calm down and think of a logical explanation, but we couldn't. There was no one in the basement, but something was rocking that chair. And that chair belonged to Logan's grandma, who died a long time ago. His mom kept it for sentimental reasons. I never believed in ghosts or anything like that, but this was too creepy to ignore. It still gives me the shivers.